Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. Before I get started, who here likes the word networking? Does it excite you? Yeah, we got Kelly. Anybody else? Bill? All right, I'm guessing Tonal, you are probably the three extroverts in this group. The rest of us, most likely, are introverts. Now let me explain what that means in terms of networking. For me, any sort of social interaction kind of goes along this line where the y-axis are my energy levels and the x-axis is the time. So when somebody says, I have a networking event for you, I'm like, no, please, right? But when I get there, I kind of, okay, I'm good. Oh yeah, that's right. I do like people. And then I kind of get like, oh, another drink? All right, I'm still here. I'm still here. Can I please leave? Once I get home, I'm alone. Well, in this particular instance, I started a new job in June. About 15 minutes into my job, they said, hey, in August, we're going to have a bunch of people here. Not only are we the headquarters for our business unit, but we're going to have the divisional leadership here. We're going to have the CEO and his people here. The divisional leadership reports to them. And then not only that, we're going to have the board of directors. Now, if you know anything about corporate structure, board of directors, they are like the end all be all. They tell you how your company is going to run. The CEO is part of that, but then there's other people in it. And to know that I just started this company and I have to attend this meeting, let me tell you how I handle it. Well, for any networking event, there are a couple of things that I do beforehand. First is vividly visualize how this is going to go. In this particular instance, I know half of these people, actually, probably only a dozen of these people out of 60, I will actually interact with at any other time. These other 48 people, I'm probably only going to see them once in my life. Who knows? But I know that I need to set my goals of what do I want to get out of this networking experience? And to be honest, I only had one goal, and that was to meet my former CEO from Bristol Myers Squibb. He happens to be a board member for Stryker. So I was very excited, and this was my one goal. This was the one thing that I was going to work on. I already envisioned it. I'm going to show up to this meeting. I'm going to be so charismatic. We're going to have dinner. We're going to laugh. I'm going to tell him about how much I really appreciated working for his company and how I left the company before he did, because he also retired from Bristol Myers Squibb last year. Another thing is scripting smartly. And what I mean by that is we all talk about that 30-second elevator pitch. Well, in this instance, it is very important to get that 30 seconds because we had an hour of socialization before the dinner. Again, there were 60 people there. So really thinking about how am I going to introduce myself to say why we're going to be able to relate. We're going to be able to make those connections and really know what kind of story I'm going to portray about who I am. One thing that I'll tell you that my brother taught me growing up was that we always had to have a joke in our back pocket because you never know when you need an icebreaker. In light of the theme today, can I get a volunteer real quick to come off mute to help me out with this joke? All right, Bill, knock, knock.
Who's unmuted?
Banana?
Banana who?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana who?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Orange.
Orange. Who?
Aren't you glad I didn't say banana?
I really am.
This is a classic, and I'll tell you, my kids love it. If you haven't heard this one before, it is now in your back pockets. Who are you? You are ready to socialize and network. Now, the last thing is before the event, fueling fully. And what I mean is not just, oh, it's a dinner event and I want to make sure I'm not hungry because I want to focus on what people are saying and not what my stomach is saying. I'm also talking about, as an introvert, being there mentally. It's kind of like taking that deep breath before you give a speech. How am I going to be able to clear up my mind so that I am ready to pursue that visual representation of myself that I have in mind? So let's get to during the event. Well, this is an important part, obviously, because the whole point is, what are you doing at this networking event? And the best way to start networking is pinpoint your posse. who are you going to connect with? Who are you going to relate to? Now, when I walked up to this networking event, we were basically in the parking lot walking in, and the granddaughter of our founder, also on the board of directors, walks up and she says, "Anybody know where the bar is?" Well, I'll tell you right away, I found my posse. She parted the crowd like Moses did the Red Sea, and we made it to the bar cart pretty quickly. And actually, it was a great conversation with her while we were waiting to get our drinks, and just kind of getting to know her and just really understanding who she was and not necessarily anything related to work. But I also had some other connections. There was a Mary there, and everybody knows Maria can sometimes be a nickname Mary. My big brother calls me Mary, and that was a good way to start the conversation. We were also going through this record heat wave. So if anybody has been in the Pacific Northwest long enough, you know that there's always some kind of record weather going on. Another board member, Alan, is based out of Seattle, and I was talking to him about, this is the first time we had the record number of days in 80s. And of course, we're all dressed in suits. Great timing, let me tell you. It made for fun. But the last thing I want to mention is to also be prepared to be bold. In this instance, when I was walking up to that bar cart, I was wearing my little name tag, and our CEO actually walked by and said, "How's it going, Maria?" And I was like, I didn't know how to respond. I did not visualize him actually connecting with me. And I was in shock. I was like, oh, great. That was it. But later, before we went to dinner, I saw he was only with one other person. And you know what? I did it. I walked up to him and I stumbled a little bit like I do in table topics sometimes. But I'll tell you, it was still a great experience. And I'm still grateful that I had the nerve to go walk up to him so that I had that experience. So at the end of a networking event, really, I think you need to reflect, did you accomplish what you wanted to do? And I didn't go into what a great dinner experience I had, but I did get to meet my former CEO. I do have a picture of him, but I'm not allowed to share it, so I didn't post it. But I felt like one of those people that was kind of starstruck. And it was a great feeling. And it was great to just be able to connect and relate to people that in another world, I don't think I would have had that experience. And when I think about whether or not I portrayed who I was, I believe that came off very well. When I talked to one of the board of directors and I was telling her we had a town hall earlier that day where we had a story from a patient where they had been saved by one of our products. And I was telling her about how moving it was. And because she wasn't able to join, I explained it to her and she said, "You're working for the right company." And even just someone who I had recently met know that this is who I am and that I'm reflecting who I am. Kind of made me proud to know that I successfully survived that networking experience. So with that, I'll end with a quote from Oscar Wilde that says, "Be yourself because everybody else is already taken."